welcome everyone to episode 3 of Spilling the Beans. My name is Jamilah Corbitt. If this is your first time seeing me and you're catching me somewhere up and down your timeline, I am the founder and CEO of I Am a Brand, where we make brands boom. We actually provide you with the tools and resources so that you can position yourself as an industry maverick in the digital space, increase your income, visibility, and influence on social media. So make sure you visit iamabrand.co. I am so excited for my guest today. Today, we're going to be spilling the beans on how to bootstrap your way to success with email marketing automation. I am here with Nathan Barry, the founder and CEO of ConvertKit. He bootstrapped his company to $8 million in 4 years, with the company now generating more than $700,000 a month in revenue. You guys, do me a favor, put your emoji hands together and help me welcome Nathan Barry. Thank you so much for joining me today, Nathan. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
And so we're going to have a really good conversation today. For all of those who are coming in and you're seeing us and you're enjoying the content, all we actually do is share this at the bottom left-hand corner. You see that share button down there? Go ahead, share this out, invite some people in. I see you guys coming in. Thank you so much for sharing, Lorville. Really do appreciate it. And make sure when you shared or invited, you type shared or invited. And so I'm also, you see the pinned comment, I want you to test drive ConvertKit for free. Go ahead, click the link. You see that link below that's pinned? Click that link so you can test drive ConvertKit absolutely free. And so I want to take a quick poll with the audience by a show of emoji hands. How many of you actually use email marketing to nurture your audience? Raise your hand if you do that. And so, Nathan, I want to start out by discussing a little bit of your background, and I think it's fascinating, and I think many people can relate and will be able to relate to this. You started blogging in 2011 because you wanted to make money from the internet and quit your job. You wrote an ebook because that was the next logical step for you, and made $20,000 within your first week by marketing to your list of approximately 800 people. When that happened, what was your aha moment?
Well, I think my first aha moment was that you could make money selling an ebook online. Like, my actual goal for the book, because the book was teaching people how to design iPhone and iPad applications. And my goal for the book was that if I put it out there, I would be the guy who wrote the book on how to design iPhone apps. And so people would be like, oh, I want to hire Nathan. I don't want to hire some random freelancer. I want to hire the guy who wrote the book on how to design apps. And so my goal was that I could get a bunch more freelance gigs from it. And I wouldn't have to be hustling to find the work. The work would just be inbound, and then I could, just design great apps, and everything would go great from there. So my aha moment was when I got to the end of the first week and we were at 20 grand in sales, and I went, yeah, I don't think I'm going to do any freelance work anymore. I'm just going to run this business, sell ebooks, and not take on any other freelance clients. And I've actually never taken on a freelance client since then.
Wow. And so because of this kind of actually, your aha moment was like, man, email marketing might kind of work. So you decided to launch ConvertKit. You decided as a developer to create this application, and you treated it as a side gig at first, right? And because of that, it wasn't growing. You were losing money. I'm pretty sure some of you guys in here can relate to that. And I know a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs out there who are giving their idea 30%, but expecting 150% return on investment. And so I want you to tell people, how critical is it to double down and go all in, or when is it time to let go?
Yeah, so this was like a big turning point for me, maybe a year and a half, or I guess 20 months into starting ConvertKit, where, we're into this far. At that point, it's doing $1,300 a month in revenue. I have this other business that's driving a lot more revenue, selling books and courses. And so I was thinking at this time, like, maybe I should just shut it down. A friend was telling me I should shut it down. And what really stood out to me was a couple of questions. Like, I decided, okay, this needs a framework. I'm a big advocate for making like mental frameworks to help me make decisions. And so I ended up creating a framework of how we're going to decide whether to shut down a project or double down on it. And it's really just two simple questions. So the first question is, do you still want this as much today as the day that you started? Right? Because we've all had it where you jump into a project, you're so excited, like, oh, this is going to be amazing. And then like a week later, you're like, doesn't actually matter that much. And if you feel like that, if you, a week in, a month in, or a year in, or whatever, if you're not still obsessed with it and you don't still really want this outcome, like for me to be the CEO of a software company, and if you don't still really, really want that, like it's totally okay. Shut it down, move on. Like our interests change over time. That's totally fine. And there's no harm in that. Now, for me, I was like, yeah, I still want to be the CEO of a software company. Like, let's do this. And clearly it wasn't working. And so there's a disconnect there. And so it's like, okay, I really want this. It's not working. So let's move on to question number 2. And that's just, have you given this every possible chance to succeed? And when you think about that, if yes, right? Mm-hmm. If you really want this and you've given it every possible chance to succeed, you've given it your best efforts, then, and it's still not working, then you should probably shut it down. Because, maybe you're not the right person to bring it to the market. Maybe the idea is not actually that good. Maybe the timing is wrong. Like, if you think about that, there's all these companies that maybe were introduced way too early and it totally flopped. And then 3 years later, someone brings in the same idea and it totally works. So if you've given it your best effort and it's still not working, like shut it down, move on, try something else. But for me, I'd been working on it 20 hours a week. And exactly like you said, if you're giving it, half your time, a third of your time, and you're expecting these results that are up here, like there's a huge disconnect there. And so I was saying, I really want this. And then I was putting in this much effort. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, clearly I'm not being honest with myself, because if I really want it, then I've got to put in the effort to match. So I was thinking about that, like that framework took me to the idea of, okay, maybe I should double down on this. And really the other part is I knew that if I shut down ConvertKit at that point in time, I would wonder for years to come, could I have made that work? And I would always wonder like, oh, if I had just worked on it full time, or if I had just put in a meaningful amount of money to start it, could I have made it work? And I personally wasn't willing to live with that, like that doubt and wondering of, I wanted to know, yep, I gave it my best effort. It failed. That's fine. Like that happens. It's business. But I couldn't live with, I tried, or like I, half-assed it. And maybe if I tried these other things, it could have worked out. So I ended up doubling down on ConvertKit, and now I'm very glad that I did.
Yes, and I think a lot of people can relate to this. And let me do a quick reset. So boom, baby, and boom for all of those who are coming in like, Jamilah, what's boom? What's boom? Boom stands for breaking out of old mindsets. And this is one of the things we help you do in the I Am a Brand community. Visit us at iamabrand.co. I want to welcome every single person that's coming in. I see you, Marlene. Thanks for inviting Lorville. Again, if you shared or invited this out, go ahead, type shared or invited. I don't ask you, you're not paying for this broadcast. I don't come around with the tip jar. I'm not saying, hey, pay me with my PayPal. All I ask you to do is pay me in shares. That's it. Expand the network, and each one teach one, each one reach one. So just pay it forward. And so for all of those who are coming in, we have the CEO of ConvertKit, Nathan Berry, right here. He bootstrapped his company. He was telling us about how he doubled down, ended up bootstrapping his company to $8 million in 4 years, with the company now generating over $700,000 in revenue. So for all of my aspiring entrepreneurs, especially my bootstrappers out there, it can be done. And Nathan was giving us the framework as to how he decided to really double down on his idea. He said he admitted he wasn't giving his idea 100% effort. And so because he wasn't doing that, he had to be honest with himself. So by show of hands, how many of you are giving your idea 100% of your effort, or you're just giving it 30% and you're like, why isn't it working? This isn't working out. So again, sometimes it takes time for things to develop, and sometimes maybe you've given it your all and it's time to give up. And for all of those who are wondering, I do use ConvertKit, and this is something that I never bring people on my platform if I'm not a a customer of their product. So I am a customer of ConvertKit. I'm also a partner. So go ahead and get your free 30-day trial of ConvertKit by using my link below. It's pinned to the top. I want you to test drive this platform. And I really do love it because I've tried a couple of those other email marketing systems and I'm like, I don't really like this too much. And I fell in love with ConvertKit earlier this year. And so Nathan, you have 3 specific business philosophies that your company lives by. And I want to talk about each one. So first, let's talk about teach everything you know. What does that mean?
Yeah. So these ideas started as like, people would ask me, hey, how do you grow a list? How do you grow an audience online? And so I was like, okay, let's break it down to these 3 principles. We call it the 3 secrets to building an audience. And so with teach everything you know, it's kind of the first one, the most important. And I like to point out, if you're at a conference and you're looking at that person who's on stage, right? You're in the audience, that person is on stage. What's different between you and them? Well, clearly they're on stage, so they're the expert, And we think, that person is an expert. And so now they have been granted the magical authority to teach, And that now once they're an expert, then they can start teaching. But really the opposite is true. Those people who are teaching, they just decide from day one that they're going to teach. Those are the people who we over time perceive as experts. So they don't teach because they're experts. They're experts because they teach. And so we look at that and say, okay, if I'm starting out on day one, I'm trying to learn to code or I'm trying to start an audience. I don't work privately behind the scenes for years as I hone my craft. And then I come out and say, treat me as an expert. Right. Instead, what I do is I teach everything I know. So day one, I need to set up a blog, right? I'm going to write a blog post, if this is what I was doing, about how I went about setting up a blog. If I'm learning to code, it might be how I set up this coding environment so that I can get started, what resources I'm using. So along the way, I'm just teaching everything that I know and sharing the whole journey. And what's so special about that is that if, there's some things that I'm very good at. Like let's take software design. I have an entire career in software design. I've spent a ton of time doing it. And so if you're asking me a beginner question about that, I might not be able to relate as well as someone who had just, maybe they're 3 months into their software design journey. Because I'm so far along that I'm going to be like, yeah, it's just do it this way, obviously. And you're like, yeah, but you didn't answer my question. But someone who had just gone through that a few months earlier, they can speak to the beginner well. And so we like that idea of teaching all the way along. The other thing that happens is then people start to follow you rather than just the material because they see your story, woven through it and, they get interested in that. So that's the first principle.
And I love it. And for all of those who are coming in, I do subscribe to that philosophy of teach everything I know. And if you've been following my journey, you've been following my platform, you will see that I'm very transparent. I document my processes. I document the journey so that you can do it too. And this is how you build your influence. It's not pushing information down people's throats. It's showing the practicality of what you're doing and how everyday people like yourself can apply this to their everyday lives. And your next business philosophy is create every day. What does that mean?
Yeah. So a couple years ago, I just looked back and how some days are better than others. Like, right. We all experience this. You're like, today is a great day and other days just aren't that good. And so I looked back and I was like, I wonder if I can systematically determine which were my favorite days, which days did I have the most fun. And I looked back and I realized, the days where I made something, whether it was out in the garage doing some woodworking or writing a blog post or designing a website, whatever it is, the days that I made something were the days that I enjoyed more. And so I took that philosophy and I was like, okay, I want to spend more time creating than I do consuming. So I want to be creating content with you. I want to be writing blog posts. I want to be building software companies more than I spend time scrolling through Twitter or everything else. The other thing is, if we take the everyday part of it, when I was getting started, I wanted to write a book. I wanted to write that first app design handbook. And I put some ideas out there and I'd work on it, but I just couldn't get into a rhythm with actually writing and putting out this material. And a friend of mine named Chris Gillibo, who inspired me a ton in the early days, I kind of like pointed out to him that I wasn't getting much traction. He's like, I actually don't think that it's that hard to write, say, 100 blog posts a year, 50 guest posts, like a traditionally published book, and then, 2 or 3 self-published books, and maybe some long form magazine articles. He's like listing out all the stuff. He's like, I don't think it's that hard to write all of this in a year. And I'm like, what? I think it's absurdly hard to just keep up with a blog once a week. He's like, I don't think it's that hard if you just write 1,000 words every day. And so at first I was like, 1,000 words, that's a ton. 1,000 is a big number. But if you think about it, it's like 2.5 pages. And so he was talking about, we're not going to like sit down and try to write a book in a month or something crazy like that. We're just going to show up every day and create every day and make that consistent progress. So whatever it is that you're building, whether it's your blog, a book, videos, a software company, my whole goal is just that it should be better in the evening when I go to bed than it was in the morning when I got up. And so I just want to create every day and show up super consistently. And then over time, it's going to turn into, these crazy results. So for me, I was like, okay, Chris, I'm going to start writing 1,000 words a day. It took me a while to get the habit, but eventually I'd built up the streak of writing 650 days in a row, or writing 1,000 words a day, 650 days in a row.
Wow.
And during that time, I'd written 3 books, founded a software company, built a blog to 30,000 subscribers, and like all of these crazy results. And it's just from showing up and creating every day.
I love that mantra. And I have something similar, a quote that I live by: small steps daily equate to quantum leaps over time. So if you're looking at it, if you're trying to look at the big picture, the macro picture, it's hard to get to, how do I write 3 books? It's hard to just sit down and write 3 books. But if you break up your tasks into small little goals every single day, you'll eventually get to your 3 books, and you'll look back and you'll say, oh my gosh, I've come so far. And that leads me to your third mantra, your third business philosophy is work in public. What does that mean?
Yeah. So I realized that I didn't want to just be known for the work that I'd done, but I wanted to be known for how I do it. And so this idea that, creativity is a super messy process. You look at my desk right now, it's a disaster.
Yeah, don't look at mine.
Yeah. There's all this stuff going on. We're just doing everything we can to make this happen. And there's a messy story behind the scenes, but there's also a super interesting story behind the scenes. And so this idea of work in public is you could also think of it as show your work. Like put it out there, the whole journey. This is how I did it. Yeah, you see the finished book, but you know what? I'm going to write a blog post detailing exactly how I did the launch for the book, how I designed the book cover. I'm just going to share everything. And with work in public, it can be a little bit different from Teach Everything You Know, where like Teach Everything You Know, you're more intentionally like, this is how to do what I did, And work in public is more just sharing the behind the scenes process. So if you're creating physical products, it might just be a quick Instagram video of like, hey, here's some of the step-by-step along the way as we create this. Or, if you're like, for me designing software, I'll show like the sketches. Actually, I have a bunch right here. I'll show the sketches in a notebook of, the process of designing out a new feature. And I'll write these blog posts and just say, this is what we did. There's less teaching to it. There's more just, hey, this is what we did. I hope you like it and learn from it. The other thing is that with ConvertKit, we're totally public with all of our numbers. And that goes to a kind of a combination between Teach Everything You Know and work in public. Because we want people to know this is our journey, follow along. One, they'll be more likely to follow and you get people's attention, but they'll also be more likely to buy because they can relate to you and they can trust you. And so those 3 ideas together are really what shapes, how we work as creators and how we interact with our audience online.
Yeah. And I love that. And I feel like we have a lot of synergy when it comes to our business philosophies, because for all of those who are my masterclass students, the Art of Influence, the Profit Masterclass, I actually took my audience behind the scenes on the journey to building this course. And so the people who joined me behind the scenes had a chance to get it for a super cheap discount at a pre-sale. And when I built the course, it was the regular price. But the people who were behind the scenes with me got to appreciate it a little bit more because they saw the secret sauce that was going into it. So let me do a quick reset for all of the people that are joining us live on this broadcast but haven't said anything. Boom, baby, welcome. My name is Jamilah Corbitt. I am the founder and CEO of I Am a Brand, where we help entrepreneurs, creatives, and career professionals position themselves in the digital space by providing them with tools and resources to increase their visibility, income, and influence right here on social media. I am here with the CEO of ConvertKit, which we do use at I Am a Brand. And so this is Nathan Barry. He bootstrapped his company to $8 million in 4 years by really doubling down. And now they're achieving over $700,000 in revenue each month. So as with any of my broadcasts, all we actually do is share at the bottom left-hand corner. You see that share button, type shared or invited. Hey, Ray, I see you. Hey, Charmaine. Let me give some shout outs. I see you, Dallas. I see you. Who else has come in here? Hey, Tracy, Joshua, I see you. Thank you so much for joining us today. So if I hadn't shouted you out, go ahead and say hi so I can personally welcome you to the broadcast. And so, Nathan, there are some entrepreneurs and creatives in here who don't put a lot of emphasis on email marketing. And I'm going to be honest, I wasn't one of those people for a long time. But yet, like I've said before, the first time you launched an ebook, you made $20,000 within the first week by incorporating email marketing into your promotion strategy. And so let's just put a stop to this right now and tell everyone, how does email marketing automation benefit your business?
Yeah, the first thing is, right, we can talk about two different stories. One, the story you mentioned of launching an ebook and making 20 grand in the first week. And that's insane. Like, that's this crazy success story. I want to share another story that happened 9 months earlier when I wrote a blog post, and it had the best headline ever. I was so happy, like so proud of this headline. It was titled, "How I Made $19,000 on the App Store While Learning to Code." Right? You'd click that headline. It's, got some good clickbait spin to it. So I wrote this post. It had, these ideas of teach everything you know, work in public, where I'm like sharing actual numbers, screenshots from my revenue, all of that. And I published that post and it went totally viral. My blog was getting 500 to 1,000 visits every month. And then in the November 2011, when this post went out, it got like 65, 70,000 visits. So it's just this crazy spike. And I remember thinking, I have made it as a blogger. Like, oh yeah, I have arrived. 500 visits one month, 65, 70,000 visits the next month. And so if you were to ask me at the time, like, okay, what do you think December is going to be like? October was 500, November is 65,000. What's like, clearly December, maybe not as much as November, but like I've made it as a blogger, right?
Yeah.
And in reality, if you look at it, what happened was you could cover, like if you hid the month of November where this crazy spike happened and said, hey, guess what happened there? Like no one would ever be able to guess because it was like October, November, and then December is like a tiny bit higher. And the reason for that is that people came to my site, read the post, and left. And they had no reason to ever come back because I wasn't using email marketing. I wasn't having a way for them to subscribe and them to follow and to push out the next bit of content. And so like the reason to use email marketing is kind of the combination of those two stories, right? If you go crazy viral, you need a way for people to follow you. And then on the other hand, if when you publish that first book, launch that first product, you need a way to stay in touch with them and say, hey guys, I'm working on the product. It's coming out. It's going to be on this day. It's going to cost this amount of money, and build up that launch so that when it's available, people will actually buy.
Yeah, and I started live streaming in 2015, and I kind of blew up on the app Periscope. And at the time, I didn't have an email list. So it was like, how do you nurture that audience? And I missed the mark. I didn't start getting serious with my email marketing until late 2016, early 2017, when I eventually just went with ConvertKit. And one of the things I love about ConvertKit is that you recently launched your automation tool, and I was like super pumped for that, which I love. And with that tool, you can visually map out your subscriber's journey, or as people will like to say, your funnel. And I saw you with the diagrams in your notebook, but what made you want to create that type of tool and move in this direction?
Yeah, so I've always I've always been obsessed with user experience, and that's basically the idea that how do we make this piece of software as enjoyable and as intuitive as possible to use? And so we saw people using ConvertKit and making these complex funnels, but they would have to have like that sketch on paper,
Yep.
or they do like a mind map or something
That
like
was
that
me.
to try to keep track of all this, right? Or they would switch to some crazy complicated, super pain to use tool that's like really expensive and all that.
We won't name that. We won't name that tool.
There's a bunch of them. There's like half a dozen or more. And so I was like, okay, my job is to make the absolute best experiences on the internet. Like my job is to make the software so easy to use that you're actually having a lot of fun. And so back in January of this year, Dylan, who's our lead designer, flew out to Boise. He and I met in person, spent a whole week like filling this notebook. Oh man, let's see if I can, there's all kinds of more funnels. There's all sorts of stuff in here. Just filling this notebook with exactly how we could design the best experience. And we started in January with the design, kind of got the designs nailed down. And then in April, we started actually developing it, put a few engineers on the project. We were able to launch it live or announce it live at our conference. And so in front of
I saw that video.
Yeah, it was fun. There's this moment where if you're in your visual automation, and it has a list, it has like, oh, this form goes into the sequence and it branches based on these conditions, etc. So I was showing everyone that, and then I click on a sequence and it animates over and loads the sequence right in line just instantly, which no other tool can do. They're all totally like really slow, take you to a different point. So when I did that, like the whole audience, 250 people all gasped at the same time. And I was like, oh, you guys get it. Like you get how important it is to be able to build your funnel super quickly so you can actually focus on creating great content and growing your list and these other things that matter more than like, oh, I just spent 2 weeks like fighting with this tool to make the most complicated funnel ever. Instead, it's like, let's get you in there, build this amazing customer experience or subscriber experience, and then get out and go back to the things that really matter.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the things I love about ConvertKit as well. And so for all of those people who are coming in, let me give some shout outs because I appreciate all of the people who are saying hello and sharing. I do see your comments. Thank you so much for sharing, Kevin. Thank you so much for sharing, Roderick. Really do appreciate that. Hey, Marquetta. Hey, Justin. Thank you so much for sharing. Stephanie, thank you for your comment. Tracy, thank you so much for sharing. Charmaine and Jax, I see you. I appreciate every single person. So my name is Jamilah Corbitt. If you're completely new to me and like, who is this girl? My name is Jamilah Corbitt. I'm the founder and CEO of I Am a Brand, where we actually give you the tools and resources so that we can set you up for success in the digital space, increase your visibility, your income, and just your overall impact on social media. So visit us at iamabrand.co. I am here with the CEO of ConvertKit, which is what I use. I'm actually a fan of the product, so much so that I became a partner. Go ahead and just test drive this tool out just free for 30 days using the link below. Just test drive so you'll see how cool it is and all of these features that we're talking about. You can test drive it for yourself. And one of the things I like most about ConvertKit, Nathan, is that you actually guide people through creating their first sequence. And at the end, they receive some cool gifts. Like I received my t-shirt, some cool stickers for my laptop. And this is an exceptionally awesome if you're completely new to email marketing. So it's you guys have made your software for the beginner. And this is one of the few things that makes ConvertKit the go-to choice as well. And another one is, of course, is how easy to use. One of my community members was like, I love ConvertKit because it's so easy and I'm not technologically savvy. So if I'm completely new to email marketing and I'm looking to switch services and I'm comparing ConvertKit to, like MailChimp or Aweber, why should I choose you?
Yeah, I think the first thing is that ConvertKit's built from the ground up for online creators, content creators, bloggers, podcasters, people like you and I. Whereas all these other tools are trying to serve, maybe all of a small business. So if you have the cupcake shop or a design studio or something like that, this whole range of businesses, right? MailChimp's built to serve all of you. Whereas we're focusing in on the people who want to grow an audience online. And quite frankly, we have different needs. So we were able to focus in on, bloggers, podcasters, and build a tool just for them. And so that's why it can be so much easier to use and still have more advanced functionality. Because the next part of it is we have all these people who are on Aweber or on MailChimp, and it's time to graduate up to something more sophisticated. And they don't want to have all that complexity or that high cost. And so with ConvertKit, they're able to graduate from MailChimp and not actually increase their costs at all. So all these things, like you need to be able to tag your customers. You want to be able to visually see the journey that they're going through. You should have a different follow-up sequence for someone who's purchased versus someone who hasn't. And that's all totally a pain in other tools and really, really easy in ConvertKit. And everyone who signs up, we send them either a Create Everyday shirt or a Teach Everything You Know t-shirt.
I got that one. Yeah. I love my shirt. I love my Teach Everything You Know shirt. My mom is like, let me get your shirt. I'm like, no, you can sign up to ConvertKit and get you one.
That's right.
And that's one of the things I really do enjoy about ConvertKit and that's one of the reasons why I was attracted to it. I went from MailChimp to Aweber to ConvertKit literally in a matter of 35 days. I was like, no, this isn't it. No, this isn't it. Oh, I love this. And the reason why I was like, oh, I love this is because of the customer journey where you guided me through my first sequence. Number two, I was able to import really easily, tag everyone on my list. And I got a chance to see the duplicates. So when you're with Aweber and these other platforms, you have duplicate people on your list. And it's like, well, I don't want this person on this list, but they're on this list too, but I need them to receive this email. So I was one of those people that was mind mapping. I was like, this isn't working in Aweber. And that's one of the reasons why I moved to ConvertKit.
Yeah, and I think that's totally perfect. That's exactly what we like to hear.
And so we have a lot of entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs in here that are part of this community, the I Am a Brand community. IamAbrand.co/community. Lavelle or someone is going to put that in the comments. What are the key ingredients to building a sustainable product or service?
Oh, that's a good question. First, having an audience makes it so much easier, right? You can, if you want to make it sustainable, if you have a way to reach your customers, then if they don't buy, that first time they visit, you can come back and email them and say, hey, buy next time. Here's what I'm working on. And they'll buy over time. You're not frantic to I've got to make the sale before they leave my website. Cause it's chill out. We've got time, The next thing would be making something that people want to talk about. Right. So how can you make it such a good experience that they're wanting to share it and wanting to, jump into that rather than wanting to just maybe it accomplishes a goal and they can use it. And that's it. So we try to find what are those magic experiences inside of ConvertKit that are going to turn someone into a fan. And so I think, sending out a t-shirt to every new customer, that's one of those things. And then you feel like you're in a special club. If you walk into, let's see, I've got some of these stickers right here. If you walk into a coffee shop and see someone's got a Teach Everything You Know sticker on their laptop, like I do, then you're like, oh, you're part of this club of creators. And then other things would be actually making it really, really fun to use. So we try to put some humor into just our follow-up emails or, make the tool really fast, kind of all that different stuff. So that's at the very core, you have to solve an important problem that's that's the basics, that's table stakes. And then beyond that, if you want to make the product really last a long time, you've got to put that fun spin into it and really make the experience something special.
Awesome. So, hi, Shantha. Hey, thank you so much for your comment, Joshua. Janine says, I'm actually doing some emails on ConvertKit as I'm listening. That's what I like to hear. And she's one of the people I actually put onto ConvertKit as well. And Stephanie says, that's what I need. Easy. So go ahead, get your free trial of ConvertKit. Orion, the name of the company is ConvertKit. It is pinned to the top. Thank you so much for putting up the website, Lorville. So for all of those who are coming in, we are spilling the beans with Nathan Berry today. This is episode 3. You guys know I bring some of the hottest entrepreneurs and marketers in the industry right here on our I Am a Brand page. And I Am a Brand is a community and digital marketing agency that helps you position yourself as an industry maverick in the digital space. So visit us at iamabrand.co/community to get a membership into our community and get access to all these resources and other people who are building legacies. And so, Nathan, we're kind of wrapping up here. And I want to know, what piece of advice would you give to the entrepreneurs on this live stream?
I think the main thing that I would say is whatever you're trying to build is going to take a lot longer than you think. Probably so long that you'll think about shutting it down at some point. And so you really have to, you've got to show up every day. You have to create every day, like we were talking about. But I run into people who are like, you know what, blogging's not for me. Or building this business, I tried it, it didn't work. And it sucks to hear those stories. And so I usually ask more like, okay, how long have you been working on this? And they're like, I've been blogging once a week for 3 months and it's just not working. And I'm like, 3 months? What are you doing? We're just getting started. You're thinking about shutting it down after 3 months, because people have such a short time horizon and they think that these results are going to come really, really quickly. And so if you're in the camp where you're like, you know what, I'm working on this project, 5 hours a week for 3 months, it's not working, I might shut it down. Then I'd say you haven't even begun to try. And so, like we talked about, you have to create every day. You have to show up every day. But more importantly, you need to do it for a long period of time. And so I would say show up every day for 2 years minimum. And then at that point, you can decide whether this is working or not. And if you do that, then I think you'll have a lot better results.
Mm. Well, there you have it, you guys. There you have it. Show up every single day for 2 years. Don't waver. Just double down, triple down, go all in. So for all of the people who are coming in, I see that you have some questions, but we're actually wrapping up. You should have asked your questions in the beginning. However, what you can do is sign up to Spilling the Beans. Spilling the Beans. I'm going to put the link in the comments, iamabrand.co/spilling the beans. So you get notified of who we're going to have on next, and you can email me with your questions to ask our guests. And I appreciate every single person for joining in the broadcast. Make sure you're signing up to your free trial of ConvertKit. The link is pinned to the top of the comments. If you haven't shared this out, it's not too late. Shout out to the replay viewers on Facebook and also on YouTube. Go ahead, give us some of that share love, baby. And Nathan, thank you so much for being the guest today.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, you guys, I am going to check off here and I will see you later. Wait for it. Boom!